September happened and I played a couple games during it, so let me jump into things. As one does when Silksong comes out, I played a lot of Silksong, and I loved it. I've talked somewhat extensively about the game in 3 different videos now. I'm going to do my best to not just repeat the exact points I make in any of those, but I'm sure there will be overlap. Silksong really worked for me. With Hornet's moveset being so mobile and having an aerial focus, I found both platforming and combat to be an utter blast. Between the swift movement and ability to deflect enemy attacks, it allowed for an aggressive playstyle that suited how I'd like to play games like this. Whenever I got into a solid flow of diving in to get a punish and dashing out to escape an attack, it just felt so good. The potential skill ceiling here is incredibly high, like so high that a player like me never even saw it. There's just so much space for skill expression, which isn't always the case with Metroidvanias. In general, sequels can be hard things to get right, as they should feel like extensions of the first game, but also they should feel unique in significant ways. At least that's what I want in a sequel. I know some people might just want the same thing over and over again with slightly new levels and some variation in the content. This balance is one a lot of developers struggle with, as they either stick too close or move too far away from what was done before. But for me at least, Silksong hits the sweet spot where it feels like Hollow Knight through tone and aesthetic and general game design philosophy, but also feels incredibly different in terms of gameplay and most surprisingly, story. The narrative of Silksong is far more layered than the one of Hollow Knight. Instead of playing as a literal and figurative vessel, Hornet is an actual character, one with strong opinions on life and the world, who shifts in small but notable ways throughout the adventure. I expected this to be a story I'd have to wait for Mossbag to explain, and certainly there's plenty of obscure lore to piece together, but I was surprised that the heart of the story was presented in the way it was and was as affecting as it was. Hornet's confidence in herself was contagious. A part of me refused to give up on fights no matter how hard they were, because giving up is not how I wanted Hornet's story to end. Silksong is not what I expected it to be, and after all that time of build-up waiting for it, I'm happy it's not. I had started to convince myself that it'd be a game that's cool and polished, but wouldn't be able to surprise me, especially not in the way Hollow Knight did. But it constantly proved me wrong in that, and that's why now it's one of my favorite games of all time. We'll see if that feeling lasts. I suspect it will, but who knows? For now though, I just really love Silksong, and it is a rare game that I already want to replay, which almost never happens for me. If you haven't watched any of my other videos on it, I'd say check out my thoughts on Silksong, which is on this channel, as it gets into the conflicting ways people seem to talk about and feel about this game. Here I'm obviously mostly just focused on the stuff I love about it, because that was my experience, but there I tried to break down the wider discussions surrounding the game. And there's also a lot of really great in-depth comments from people who feel similarly to me, people who feel different, and there's stuff to learn there for sure, from me and from other people. Go check that one out. Anyway, the title that had the unfortunate job of being the game I played after Silksong was We Were Here Too, and similar to its predecessor We Were Here, it was okay. It improves on the puzzles and general structure of the first game by not only having stuff that's a bit more complex, but also being more balanced with how often each player has to give instructions versus receive instructions. These games are all about describing things you see on your screen to the other person, and in the first game that was pretty one-sided. Here I felt like I actually got to be the guy in the chair just as often as my friend did, which was a nice shift from how the first one felt. With that said, despite it being better, this one does cost money, and where I found the first to be just fun enough to give this one a shot, I don't think I found the puzzles or general quality of life improvements here to be intriguing enough to have the same enthusiasm to try another one. I do know this is a pretty popular series, so if a lot of you tell me there is a big jump in quality with the next game, I may change my mind, but yeah, I don't know that I'd say I found this to be disappointing. It just didn't leave me feeling much at all, which might be worse. There are just so many cool co-op games right now that it's hard to pick this series over others. But again, I recognize that I may be stopping before hitting diamonds here, so let me know. That is all I got. Have a good one, and I will see you in the next one unless I decide to stop doing this. But look, at this point, you've realized probably that I'm at least going to get through the year because I've released, 3 others before this. Like, how wild would it be if I got to the September one and then it was just like, actually, I'm not going to catch up. I'm just going to stop. Wait, maybe I should do that. Wait. Bye.